I call this tip gone with the wind. So one thing that I've learned over the years and years of bow hunting is there's going to be times where there's those wind advisories and it is just blowing a gaze, but you know what? When the time's right, and you have to make the most of it. So you wouldn't know it, and if you pan up, you might slightly see it. But right now we're actually in a wind advisory. There's 30 to 40 mile an hour winds. So what I've always looked for are, what are the areas that I can get out of the wind? Are there certain pockets that I can get into where I can still hunt when the time's right, or when I have off to hunt, or when I need to hunt, where I can be out of the wind and not be sitting there riding that tree bowl all day long, flopping around. And also, what I found is that a lot of animals seek refuge out of the wind too, because that's a major defense mechanism of theirs that's being corrupted because it's all the disturbance. There's tons of movement, so their vision's being disturbed. They can't hear much that's going on because of all the gusty blowing. So if it's prime rut's still gonna happen, but they're gonna focus on spots where you really don't have to deal with all that. So I say you need to have a spot that's gone with the wind. Right here is one of those spots for me. So this is just an area on this particular farm. This is an area where the land actually tapers up like this. It tapers up big, and then there's lowland and this creek bottom to where the bucks and the does will still utilize this creek bed in this area to stay out of the wind and still do their rut activity even when the conditions are horrible. So there's been times where people send me a DM and say, the winds are 50 mile an hour today, are you still gonna go? If the time's right, the answer is yes, and having the options to do so are gonna be critical. So you can utilize your app and try to find those high grounds to where it's tapering off to the low grounds. You can find those creek systems and kind of see how the wind's blowing through to determine where is a spot that I can have that's gonna play in my favor when that wind is blowing. So right here is one of those spots. The very tops of the trees are kind of moving around, but we're still just under where that main wind is howling through. This would be such a key location if I was, especially right now, if I was hunting early season and I was trying to intercept something coming from bedding, going to a food source. I might be better off just being in here where the animals are more than likely going to stage a little longer because it's not so offensive as the wind goes. This is also an area to where, even though right now this is a tree stand and set up for a deer situation, this is also an area that I key in on when I'm turkey hunting and those high wind gusts are in the forecast, because down in here, I at least have the advantage of being able to hear something that's within 100-yard perimeter all the way around me. If there's a turkey talking, I'm gonna at least be able to hear it. I won't have the disturbance of all the leaves blowing around. So find that area where you can be gone with the wind, you can be out of the wind, you can utilize your layers in your maps to see where those low areas are, focus on those creek beds or those tight little areas. And sometimes in these areas, when the wind is calm, they're actually really hard to hunt because the air is just very unstable and it's just kind of moving around through that area. Whereas now, at least if you have that prominent wind that's blowing hard up in the top of the tree, you can see the wind is actually blowing through, which will play out perfect. Here's another big gust, but as you can tell, it's manageable. So having that spot to seek shelter from the wind is gonna let you be on the chessboard one more day when you might have called it quits and decided not to go.